we're talking about discipleship pathway today because I heard that's what you want to learn about. So we're kind of shifting my focus. This is a very small slice of a much larger presentation. So I'm going to give you the outline, but in 35 minutes, I can't give you every single detail, but I'm happy to share this with anybody and everybody. So my email address is pastorsteveleddy@gmail.com. Pretty easy, pastorsteveleddy@gmail.com. All right, so let me ask you a question. We're going to do a project here to start with, okay? And each section, you're going to be in charge of this, okay? I want you in the next 3 years to build 6,000 Zencos. I want you to build 6,000 and you to build 6,000. And now, real quick, tell me how you're going to do that.
I don't even know what that is.
That's the point of everything I'm saying. So this is how we do discipleship. We use a word called discipleship that we've never defined. We don't know what it really is. We just love to talk about it. And if we don't know what it is, how are we ever going to do what Jesus said? Make disciples. So we are going to talk about that as the most important thing is, are we going to know what a disciple is so we can make them? So let me ask you this question. Are we commissioned or conditioned? Well, we're commissioned, but are we really conditioned? You see what I'm saying? The difference? I know that we have a great commission, but I think what we're living out is the condition, the tradition of what we've always been doing. And it makes a big difference. How does your church culture or the church you're going to plant, how would their culture help or hinder disciple making? If you don't understand how to build disciples and really know exactly what that looks like, you won't build the disciples. So this is what a church with a discipleship culture looks like. If you actually have a culture, your culture will provide good examples everywhere for growing members. Everything you do will be an example of discipleship. It will show them, not just through teaching in a training class, but everything they see will be part of a discipleship process. Even seemingly non-training events usually lead to discipleship lessons. And discipleship becomes the norm and is infectious. This is what Jesus did. He lived discipleship. A lot of the lessons that the disciples learned were not spoken. They were shown by the way he lived and interacted with the culture that they were in. So we need to create cultures, especially when we're planting churches, that have this as part of the DNA. And if you don't know how to do this, don't plant a church. Because the reality of what you're facing is... No, but we have enough churches that don't make disciples. We don't need to plant more of those. We need to actually have churches that plant true disciples. And so let me ask you a question. Do you have a plan? When somebody comes to you, you become part of their life and somehow, whether it's through baptism or whatever happens, do you have a plan to get them to become a strong, strong disciple? So when I got off the airplane, I landed in MCO in Orlando, and I said, okay, I know that the Camp Kluwaka is up north somewhere, so I got into my rental car, and I just started driving north until I found this place. Is that what happened? No, I would still be searching around, right? Because if I don't know where something is, what do? How did I get here? GPS. Oh, that wonderful thing. I don't know how we survived with. I remember paper maps. Some of you are old enough for that. But I put it in this device. But now just opening my GPS, is that enough? Just said, okay, now I have a GPS. Was that enough to get me here? What did I need? You have to have the address.
Internet.
Yeah, well, you have to have internet too. But you have to have the address. So I had to plug in the address to get to where I was going. That, when we're talking about making disciples, you have to know what you're making to get there. The definition is vital. That is like putting the address in the GPS. Once you know where you're going, then you can find routes to get there. But if you don't know where you're going, it's like driving blind. I know it's this direction somewhere, and hopefully I'll end up there. It's not a good method. It's not a good strategy. So we need to have that kind of plan. So here are the 3 basic steps. I've shown you this before. We're going to go into this more detailed now. Maybe I showed you this before. I don't know if I did. So these are the 3 basic steps to create disciples for Jesus. Define what a biblical disciple is. If you don't know what a disciple is, you cannot make one. Once you make that definition, you know where you're heading, you want every member to grow into that, then you build the training systems so that you help members grow into that definition. And the only way this continues to work is if you track your effectiveness. If you do not know if it's working, it's not working. I'm telling you, every time I see a program that doesn't track effectiveness, I know it doesn't work. Because tracking effectiveness is what makes things work great. That you can tweak and change and grow and expand. There's so much you can do when you track effectiveness, and we're going to talk about that today. So, where can you expect to discover new disciples? This is what the Bible says, right? Jesus says, go find disciples of all the people you're comfortable working with. Isn't that a direct quote from the Bible? No. But that's so many churches, that's what they read. At least by the way they're acting. Find disciples within people you're... That's not at all what's correct. He said, go make disciples of all nations. This is very difficult because there's 2 words in there that we don't like to hear sometimes. Make. For us, culturally, maybe, you're going to make a disciple. Ooh. That's what Jesus said to do. And then of all nations, of everybody, even people we think are far from Christ and are weird and different. And so make means these things. It means to construct, build, assemble, put together, manufacture, produce, fabricate, create, form, fashion, model, mold, shape, forge, bring into existence. These are definitions of what make looks like. Make does not mean hope, wait, watch, pass off, ignore, dream, complain, or expect. Jesus said, go make disciples. And this is so vital. You know, I am a big fan of football. I even got my CU Buffalo shirt on. I went to CU when I was younger, so I can be a real fan, not. But I love football, and I have a good friend who loves football too. But as you know, the CU Buffaloes, if you know anything about college football, what day do they play on? Typically, Saturday. So I can't watch the game a lot of times, because I'm not, there's no way to watch football on Saturday. And so I go to my friend's house. I knock on his door. It's Saturday night. I know that he's a bigger fan than I am even. I knock on the door and I go in and I'm like, dude, tell me what happened with the game today. And he's like, you're not going to believe this. It was crazy. Coach Prime had a brand new haircut. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? I don't care about that. I'm like, no, tell me what happened. And he's like, oh, it was so impressive. The grass was greener than I've ever seen it on the field. What am I asking? I want to know, yeah, who won, right? Did we win? Did we lose? What's the score? Jesus comes to the church and knocks on the door and says, hey, how are we doing? Oh, Jesus, you're not going to believe this. Our tithe is up 3%. He's like, okay, that's nice. Yeah. Jesus, our attendance in Sabbath school is up 4.5% this year. Well, that's good, but how are we doing? What is he asking? He's asking, how many disciples have you made? Because that's what he told us to do. It's the last thing he says when he's ascending. You think it's important? Go make disciples. And the only thing he says to make is the one thing we don't count. We don't count how many disciples we make. We count how much money we make. We count our attendance. We count baptisms. Those are all important things and vital. But we don't count the one thing he said to make, disciples. Every single Adventist church in the world should know how many disciples they have currently and how many people are they discipling. And when I use the word disciple, of course it's a journey. And people who are baptized are on that journey. I'm talking about disciples the way Jesus made. He didn't just say, okay, come follow me and don't change, right? He made them into fishers of men. He made them into leaders of movements. That's the type of disciple we're talking about. And so when we look at the definition of what Jesus meant when he said, go make disciple, we find what it looks like in the Bible. So a good book, in fact, write this down or take a picture of this next book. Yeah, it's the Bible. Yeah, you're ruining my thing, man. You're ruining it. Yeah. Sorry. No, that's okay. This is the best book in the world ever written on discipleship, especially the first 5 books of the New Testament, because it is all about discipleship. We think it's all about salvation, which it is, but there is more about discipleship than any other subject in there. Jesus is walking us through the life, and his disciples are walking us through the life he had, the connection he had with his disciples. And we can learn so much about discipleship if we just read those 5 books. Here's why I'm hesitant to give this presentation. Because most people won't read those 5 books to find out what a disciple is. It takes actual time. Steve, just hand feed it to me. That's what people want all the time. It doesn't work like that. If I take a course in school, I can give you a little piece of it maybe. But until you go take that course yourself, you're not going to get near the effect as somebody just giving you highlights. It's important for you to take the time and actually go through those, at least the first 5 books, and just highlight discipleship that you learn as you're seeing this. So let me give you an example. Here we go. Matthew chapter 14, or 4, verses 18 to 19. Jesus was walking beside the Sea of Galilee. He saw 2 brothers, Simon called Peter, and his brother Andrew. They were casting a net into the lake, for they were fishermen. Come, follow me, Jesus said, and I will send you out to fish for people. Give me some discipleship ideas from this. What are you learning about discipleship?
Jesus went where people were.
Yeah, Jesus, that is one of the most important parts of this whole thing. And of course, a great pastor says that right away. But rabbis didn't do this. Right. Rabbis waited for disciples to come to them. But Jesus went out to find disciples. All right, what else do you see?
He had a conversation with them.
Yeah, he talked. He was, interacting. Good. What else?
They were just fishermen.
Yeah, they were just regular people, right? They weren't the religious elite. Good. What else? Come on, keep going.
He called them.
Yeah, called them to make a choice, right? It's not just call and say, follow me. He's telling them there's going to be transition coming. You're doing this, I'm going to make you into this. Yeah.
He gave them a purpose.
Yeah, gave them a purpose. Good. Yeah, the invitation. Yeah. Man, we were just having a conversation in the other building about how many pastors don't even know how to invite people to be baptized. We've got to learn to start inviting people to take those next steps. Good.
He called them according to their Context.
Yeah, oh, most people don't get that one. Thank you. Yeah, that means he was speaking to them according to their context. He did not go to Levi, Matthew, and say, I will make you fishers of men, right? That wouldn't have made sense with him, but he was speaking and doing discipleship in a context that made sense to them. Good, good, good. What other things you see? So we don't have to have more. What you do is when you're reading the Bible, have a notebook and start reading it with discipleship eyes and start taking these notes. Now, if you have a team, break it up. If you don't want to do it all yourself, break it up. You do Matthew, you do, Luke, everybody, does their own section, and then compare notes. And you will find that when you bring all this together, there'll be some major themes that come together. And it's very exciting, so I'll skip that part. So how will each member become a disciple? Once you know what a disciple looks like, again, you've taken all this information, you boil it down. Like when I did it, and again, this is something I thought I was a genius, and I figured out until I did it, and I found out lots of other people do the same thing, is they just take the Bible and let it speak for itself. Aren't we Adventists? I mean, that's what Adventists are known to do, right? And so when I did it, I found 3 major themes. I'm not going to tell you all of them, but I'll tell you one of them because you're going to find this one for sure. Mission-mindedness. That is a huge theme in there. But under mission-mindedness, there's some sub-themes. Like one of the things I call it is the next person culture. That means that we do church not just for ourselves, but for those who don't know Jesus. I call it next person culture because for the next person who walks in the door of my church, that's why I exist. If they don't know Jesus, I exist for that person. It's that next person that's coming in. So I have to make sure that I'm speaking truth, but in a context they can understand. So I don't change my messages. I change how I deliver my messages. Does that make sense? And it's so simple. I'll give you an example. We would have Bibles in every seat. There'd be a Bible. And instead of saying in Revelation chapter 16, I'd say on page 2314, we see in Revelation chapter, they were all matching Bibles, and we gave page numbers because that's how people who don't know Christ would look up something in the Bible. They don't know where things are in the Bible necessarily. So we just do little tiny tweaks that make things easier. Here's a big one. I never say happy Sabbath in church. I'm sorry. I know, you're just going to kill me for this one. It makes no sense to people who are far from Christ, though. That's not a normal way of talking to people. Now, to Adventists, I can say it, but we have our greeting teams trained to greet people like a normal person would be greeted. Hi, welcome, great to see you. I've actually had churches say, oh, if you don't say happy Sabbath, what would you say? Do you walk around and say happy Wednesday to your coworkers? Come on. So we want to build these training systems, though. We know now what a disciple is based on our research from the Bible. Then I'm going to build a training system. What will it take to help people grow from where they are to where they're going to be? So going back to our GPS, it's not enough to know where you're going. The GPS has to know where you're starting from too, right? Have you ever been, who said no, there's no Wi-Fi or no signal? Have you ever tried to use GPS without a signal? It doesn't know where to start, so it can't give you the route. So that's important, not only knowing where you're going, but where you're starting. So we work with everyone where they're starting. Some people have no clue who Jesus is. We start there with them. Some people have been Adventists for 40 years. We start there with them. Every person is unique. So even though we have a training program, and I don't hate the word program, but it is a program. We have this training system that we use. We adapt it to every person because we have to know where they're starting to help them grow to where they should be going. So this is again, I wish I had more time to go into this one detail because this is a very big one. But I'll give you an outline of some of the things you can use. You make it the way you want. But training can include having mentors, having books. This is a great way of doing it. Shadowing. You can watch people as they're growing. Not shadow like scary shadowing, but classes, one-on-one work, small groups, videos. I mean, there's so many videos out there. ALC has some great stuff you can use that will help you develop disciples. Doing activities, role-playing, and you could just add on and on. We use all of this, and you should use multiple ways of growing disciples so that you have the best outcomes. And then track your effectiveness. Does this work? How do you determine if it's effective? There's lots of ways you could do that. I'll give you some examples. Assessments. This is what I use. You use whatever you want that works for you. But I've created a 40-question assessment that I give to my church every 6 months. They write their answers in this assessment. It is based on very beginning of discipleship. I believe Jesus Christ is my Savior. Basic kind of question. And they score it 0, meaning I didn't never believe that. 1, I'm not sure, or low score. 2, mostly, and 3, always. And so what they're doing is there's 40 questions. It gets to the 40th question is basically, I train people to be movement makers for Christ. That's the ultimate basic form of discipleship. Of course, there's a lot of things about how we live and different things. Tithing, leadership, ministry, all these different things are in there. So they're writing down their answers, and whatever question is first on the list, maybe it's number 6, that's talking about studying their Bible regularly. If they score that 0 or 1, that's what we're going to work on for the next 6 months for them. And so this is how I can assess where people are in the beginning process, but it also helps me assess the growth of the whole church. So I can take these assessments and then give an average score for every single question. And if I see question number 10, we're really weak on, guess what I'm going to be preaching on and teaching on for the next 6 months? That's going to be a major portion of what we're doing in our church, is we're going to be making sure the whole group can grow in that area. So having an assessment like this is so helpful. I wish I could even begin to explain how much this will change your ministry if you know where people are in the discipleship track. It will change for the individual, and it will change for the entire church. And fortunately, I've got a guy who's making right now this on a website. He liked it so much that he does Mark Finley's online university. And so he's going to create these assessments online for us. So it'll be available for people. This is where it's going to be. This is just, it's not there yet. So if you go on there, you're not going to see anything. I think you can, there's a sample on there of it maybe. But that's where it will be. But again, we're probably 6 months away from being even beta tested yet. All right? So, but assessments also are milestones. This is where I started. I said, what are the milestones that show me people are growing as a disciple? For me, and it doesn't have to be you, but for me, one of my milestones that somebody's not just being discipled, they're ready to disciple others, is when they preach the first time. For me, that is a big milestone. And yes, most people are terrified of preaching until they go through discipleship. Once they're discipled, it's much easier. And I actually had a system that the church, it was kind of a joke. And I'm not tracking my time here. Oh, yeah, I'm there, aren't I?
6 minutes.
6 minutes, okay. So I used to do this. After I would do a sermon, I'm working with all these people, helping them disciple. I'd just walk down the aisle and I'd say, you're next. And then just keep walking. And they knew what that meant. That they knew within a month or two that he would be up preaching. And I only preached half the time. And usually I don't stay long because I'm a church planter, but one church I did stay for 8 years because my kids were young and I wanted them to get through high school before I left. And so in that 8 years, we trained 60 young adults to preach. And they were preaching all over the conference. And 7 of them now have become pastors. Not one of them wanted to be a pastor. This is why I love Be Love. Be Love is doing an amazing job. Anytime you get Joanne Cortez, she is living what this looks like. Because, I mean, how many of you guys are in theology, map men? Yeah, 7 or 8. And you just started. It took me 8 years to get there. I mean, it's just, this is what it looks like when you're seeing this in action. And it just so happens she has the most defined discipleship pathway of any pastor I know in North America. It's the result of knowing how to disciple. This is what happens. You get an entire movement of young people that want to lead the church. We have a shortage of pastors in North America. There's lots of things you can do, but the solution is discipleship. When you disciple people, they realize that there's so much available to them in ministry. Not every one of them will become full-time pastors, but many of them will. Many of them will want to be more in the ministry. They want to be doing this full-time, and they'll feel that call. So milestones is a way to figure out if you're growing, if somebody's growing. And then appraisals. Maybe a mentor has a process that they say, this is what I'm looking for. So you have enough mentors out there that are watching that growth. Does that make sense? So who has the first question? That was like a shotgun of a very, very detailed thing. So.
You made reference to something called ALC.
Yeah,
What is that?
it's right back there. Adventist Learning Community. It's AdventistLearningCommunity.com, right? Or is that org?
It's .com, and you
Yeah.
can scan this QR code.
Right there.
One takes you to the website, and one signs you up for updates, like when this will be available.
In fact, I think this presentation in a longer version is probably on there. I just looked at it this morning. I have 29 of my messages on there. So, I mean, and not just me, everybody up here that's been speaking to you. You have an incredible resource. Look at what they're doing. They're filming everything. Well, they've been doing this, filming everything for years and years and years. And so you have a storage of all of that we've been talking about and more right there for you. And it's, how much does it cost, everybody? Free. This is an incredible resource. This is why I'm saying if you're making a discipleship pathway, this is a great resource because there's so many things that teach you about anything you can think of. Do you have any idea how many videos there are on ALC? I mean, it's absolutely amazing.
And Roy, the way that it works in North America, pastors, anybody can go there, lay people, but as a pastor, if you develop, you have an account, you log in, and they can register CEUs. So when you watch something, you get continuing education credits, and in some conferences, a certain amount are required, and it automatically logs it in. So those of you who are in North America, if you want CEUs, you can actually use this event as a CEU, and I don't remember how many units they can get for this one. But it's really good, and especially if you're looking for a job in another conference, they might look to see, oh, what have you done for continuing education? So there's a record of it there, and it can go with you from wherever you are, and this is great for you to do this as well.
Fortunately, I'm in Potomac Conference, which has the highest login rate of all conferences, and it's required of all pastors. You have to have at least, and it's not much, 2 CEUs a year. But we love what ALC is doing, and we love that they come and partner with things like boot camps and other programs. So, yeah. So, again, if you want to take notes from me, but you'll hear 5 other people, 10 other people giving discipleship programs on there too. Any other questions? Boy, no other questions? Are you kidding? It's too clear. All right. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Again, if you want any of these slides, happy to send it to you, pastorsteveleddy@gmail.com. God bless you.